Good evening, and welcome to Rock Solid Radio. I'm Linda Hutchinson, the Executive Director of Rock Solid Families.
And I'm Merrill Hutchinson, President of Rock Solid Families. And we are excited to have you join us for the next 30 minutes as we talk about relationships. A huge shout out to our sponsors. Thank you to Maxwell Construction, Greendale Cinemas, Mansfield Insurance Agency, and Erie Insurance. We are so thankful for these businesses who have made this show possible. So whether you are listening live or online, Rock Solid Radio, helping to strengthen our community, one family at a time on your hometown radio, Eagle Country 99.3. Good evening, Eagle Country. Welcome to Rock Solid Radio. This is Merrill Hutchinson, President of Rock Solid Families. And we have a great show tonight, mostly because we have a great guest that came into willingness to spend a little time with us. I'd like to introduce Dr. Greg Meyer from Cincinnati Children's Hospital. Greg, you work kind of with the physical therapy work at the hospital there, right? Can you give us a little insight?
Yep, I work at the Cincinnati Children's Hospital. I'm the Director of Research, and we do injury prevention work, and we try to do anything we can to make sports and keep kids active and healthy. And then we're partnered with our physicians who are the best in the business of getting those kids back healthy and back on the field. So our goal is to get all kids playing sports as much as we can and keep them safe as we can. If they get injured, we want to get them back out there as soon as we can.
We could have used him with our two oldest because we spent a lot of time in Beacon and Children's, and we actually invested in Aflac because we actually made money on our kids when they were young because the amount of times we were.
I think we probably bought a couple new cars for some doctors and stuff like that. Yeah,
well, they kept you honest.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, but it is a very serious topic, and I can't wait to get into it more because some of this is very good and healthy, and some of it's not, right? There's some things, some patterns that we see that are maybe not as healthy. And so we really want to get into all of that and see, for you listeners out there, really what are some key components that we really want to make sure we incorporate into our kids' life and sports and the balance. Right, that's very
Before
important.
we get rolling, hon, I just want to say thanks to our sponsors for making Rock Solid Radio happen. Thanks to Maxwell Construction and Greendale Cinemas for their continued support. They've been with us since the beginning, and we're so thankful we have two new sponsors, Mansfield Insurance Agency and Erie Insurance, who've come on board to say, hey, we value our community, we want to invest in our community and strengthen our families, and so we're so thankful for those sponsors.
Yeah, those sponsors make all this possible, so we thank them. And the neat thing about our sponsors, we know all of these folks, and they're good people. They're good community people, and they've come alongside of Rock Solid Families. They appreciate what we're trying to do, and we appreciate that they are willing to invest back in their community. So thanks, guys, for all that you do. Boy, we've got a lot of different things coming up. We've got some, I'm going to plug this for you a little bit, hon.
Okay.
This is on April 24th, our parenting class at Bright Elementary, Parenting in a Tech-Heavy World. I know this has been a hot button issue for
Greg,
you.
do you have kids?
No, I don't. They have 4 legs. So
Well, in our world, technology is like the center of the world for our family, and it's a tech-heavy world. I mean, and it's a struggle for parents to find that healthy balance. So we are going to be talking about how do we as parents set a healthy standard and a good balance for our kids.
It's so quickly changing. We raised 2 older boys that are now out of our house, and now we have 3 younger children. And just in that span of time, it's about a 10-year change, the saturation level of technology and the accessibility is just crazy. And it's starting to own our kids. And parents a lot of times feel completely unarmed, uneducated, helpless.
I can't do anything. I don't know what else to do. Yeah,
so this is a great class at Bright Elementary from 6:30 to 8 o'clock on April 24th.
Yeah. We're going to be talking about sedentary lifestyle and trying to get kids busy and at least, active. We have a lot of classes ourselves. We teach finishing classes, exercise classes, 6 days a week, do personal training. So if you are inspired by this, this program tonight and you want to get up and move, maybe you or your child.
Yeah, you don't even have to be a kid, right?
Exactly.
Right? We're going to talk about kids tonight, but you don't have to be a kid.
Yeah.
And so, our tagline is faith, family, and fitness. And so those are the three areas that Linda and I kind of feel qualified and have some little bit of time in, some experience in.
A little bit.
And a little
30
bit.
plus.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to say we're old, but And so the exercise part is a vital component to keeping our body healthy and strong. And so our exercise is something, we do that 6 days a week within our studio, and love to bring people along in that. We call it finishing, but it's an exercise that I created about 8 years or so ago. And it's just a great combination of endurance and strengthening and movement patterns, which we find that to be very important, especially as we age. So, it is interesting. The two biggest groups that we find ourselves working with the most in there are middle-aged to older and younger. I get a lot of 12, 13, 14, 15-year-olds in, and that's a great time to be helping teach their body to move appropriately without bad patterns picking up too early.
Yeah. So, Hun, why this topic? Why are we focusing on kids? If you just joined us at the top of the show, we talked about the fact that we're focusing on kids and sports, and we have a special guest with us from Cincinnati Children's Hospital, Dr. Greg Meyer. So thank you for being here
Thank you
with
for having me.
So we want to talk a little bit about sports and activities with our youth.
Yeah, well, the reason I got to meet Greg, I don't know, couple months ago or whatever, and saw your work and got to meet a couple of the folks that work for you. And one thing I will say is everybody is very professional there and excited about what they do. It's not always do you walk into a place where people are excited about where they work. So
we have a fun group, and they're the best in the business at what they do. So it makes a good dynamic. And again, the passion that we have, very similar to what you guys are talking about keeping kids active, moving. It's a big passion of all of ours, and I think when you have those things together, it makes for a great team.
I have to just shout out Cincinnati Children's Hospital. We are so blessed in the tri-state area to have such a gem, a jewel in our backyard. And there's people that travel. I've met so many families that have traveled all over the country to come to Children's for the specialty work that they do. And so the fact that we can do that and just drive there is remarkable. I love Children's Hospital.
Yeah. So why the topic? Well, again, this is just not a scientific measurement on my part. It's an observation. I worked in the schools, 20 years as a school counselor at the elementary level, and then 12 years at the high school level prior. And the movement that I really saw, especially in the last 10 to 15 years, I really saw two distinct different pathways. One was a very sedentary. Kids are more obese. Many kids, I remember when I had the Presidential Physical Fitness Awards, and all that. And it was like, well, who didn't make that? Everybody made those standards. And now, we had classes where only one or two kids would make that whole thing. So we have a huge number of kids that are sitting more. Video games or whatever. I don't know exactly why, right? That's not, they're just sitting more. And then we have the 180 degrees the other way, where kids are in organized sports from the time they're 3 and 4 years old, and it's structure year round, personal trainers and coaches, and it's like, whoa, where's some middle ground here? So that's why this topic to Lynn and I is just like, this is just kind of a real thing that we're dealing and seeing every day. So help us out, Greg. Who do you work with? Who comes to see you guys?
Well, our research is primarily focused in young adolescent athletes. 20 years ago, Children's Hospital had a vision because there was a female athletes. We could tell that were having a lot of knee injuries, and they didn't know why.
I was one of those.
And
yes, you were. You got the scars to show it.
You got the scars to show it. So we found they recruited us to say, we don't believe this is a problem, that this was sports. Let's figure it out. So we spent the first decade just studying young female athletes to see how they grew and developed, how their motor control and strength and power developed. And what we found is girls, on average, would have jump as high as they would ever jump right at puberty. But what happens during puberty is they grow and develop. So basically, we're giving them a bigger car without a bigger engine. So we saw this is a a perfect opportunity to implement neuromuscular training and training programs to give them that artificial boost that they need. And we found that doing these programs that we can make sports and activities safer for young women across the board. 50 to 60% reductions in ACL injuries, which is,
my gosh.
is dramatic.
That's actually what you guys found.
Yeah, so that to me was exciting, but that even a decade ago, as you mentioned, that we're at seeing a paradigm shift in movement and physical activity in kids, and I think there's a lot of things that are driving that. The one being screen time. Kids are addicted to their phones and screen time. They're more sedentary. But the other thing that's it's an adult problem is that we're reducing physical education in schools. So we're basically stripping kids of opportunities to develop the prerequisite motor skills to be competent movers so that they can be active in their adult life. The second thing is we're starving them of sports sampling when they're young. So where do you think you're going to get an opportunity to learn and try different sports? So kids now are specializing in the sport that their parents think that they would be good at, but they've never been exposed to their true sport that they would be elite at potentially. And so those things all play together, and it's a big passion of ours. But as you mentioned, there's this spectrum of the specialized athlete to the overtrained athlete on one side to the sedentary athlete on the other side. Most consider it a spectrum. I don't think it's a spectrum. I think almost all of the problem is on the sedentary. Because if I have this overtrained athlete, what do I do to them? I tell them to rest a little bit, and they get better. They have an overuse.
Easier to bring that down.
What happens to the sedentary athlete? I set them on a trajectory of early death, heart disease issues for the rest of their life.
Great point.
And it's a really big problem. So we liken it to 20 years ago. Smoking was much more common. We see people smoking, and we've had a paradigm shift. We know what causing, and it's because of the science.
Yeah.
Well, if parents saw their 7-year-old sitting on the couch smoking, what would they do right now?
Get your butt up and
We would
stop it.
rip it out of their
pulling
hand.
that cigarette out.
But I'm telling you, sedentary lifestyles much more dangerous than smoking is at age 7.
Yes, we could talk
and
on.
So why are parents not responding? Why are our administrators at schools not seeing this? And so I guess part of the schools thing with PE is that we think that we're going to have better education, so they spend more time in classroom. The evidence is strong to shows that keeping kids active, they're much more better in scholastic activities.
Right.
And so those kids are half asleep a lot of the time. If you get them up and moving, they have a burst of attentiveness that you can't see.
Yeah, well, that's funny that you bring that up, because in our class that we're doing, Parenting in a Tech-Heavy World, we talk a lot about that we're allowing their kids to sit for 3, 4, 5 hours on a weekend, especially. They just let them burn the whole day. Yeah. And the parents don't feel like they have any power to say, give me the phone, give me the tablet, go outside.
Go out and play.
And we're afraid, I don't want to scar my children or not give them a phone at age 7 because everybody else in their class has one. That is unbelievable, and it's really slowly killing our kids.
Yeah, I read an article a couple weeks ago about the concern about our military struggling to find young recruits that can pass the basic health standards, the physical fitness tests, to join. And so they're talking about how do they get around this, and maybe even dropping or lowering standards if you're going to go into a technical side of the military. Which just the whole thing just gets kind of weird. But I like that whole idea. I don't like, but it makes sense, that idea that that cigarette smoking seemed like such a bad thing, but sedentary lifestyle is probably even worse, isn't it? And we're setting that stage up for their lifetime.
There's no doubt that it's worse. Physical inactivity is the number 4 killer worldwide right now. So it's taking over all.
Wow, can you say that again?
Physical inactivity is the number 4 killer worldwide right now. And it's on the...
So would you say this is not just a U.S. problem?
It's not just a U.S. problem, but I can tell you the U.S. gets some of the worst grades in physical activity.
We lead the league, huh?
We get a D- in most of the grades that show our physical activity levels. There's other countries that are close to us, but we're one of the leaders in the activity.
And Dr. Meyer, can I just say, we are labeling this show Kids in Sports. But unfortunately, mom and dad think that to enroll their kid in a T-ball at age 4 is the answer. How about just going outside and riding a bike? How about playing on the swing set? Climbing a tree?
Where do you think kids are role modeling at age 4, 5, 6? They're role modeling their parents. And then, as I said, they go into school and they're being forced into long periods of inactivity and keeping them out. There's some, another player, again, it's an outlier, but we're such a litigious society now. Schools are scared to have running at recess and balls at recess.
You can't play this and that and this.
So it's, again, those things, like a kid falls off the monkey gym, he breaks his arm, that heals. But what's worse, a kid that doesn't have any motor strength that can support motor skill to move later in life. So people look at the short term, but they're not seeing the big picture. And I think that's what we're all trying to fight. And I think it's got to be a more global response to it. The one thing I can tell you is that my colleague Avery Fagenbaum, who is one of the world leaders in getting kids strong and training kids, we can't coin the term exercise deficit disorder. And we want to arm physicians with a diagnosis of someone that might need treatment. So to help physicians start to identify, instead of checking them for blood pressure or other markers, let's not check to see if they have motor competence or if they're movers, and let's get that in the process of healthcare.
So almost do it like a functional movement screener type thing, rather than, so in the exercise world, rather than just testing blood pressure and those kind of things, we do movement screenings.
That's exactly it, because we may have a kid at age 7, 8, 9, 10 that looks normal and healthy without obesity, but he's a non-mover. You make them move. You've seen the kid that has no skills and could never move or throw a ball. Yeah. And we have videos and we think it's funny, but it's actually really not funny. It's sad for these kids, because they are never going to be movers. It happens at age 5, 6, 7, where before that, kids don't care if they're poor movers. They play, they make mistakes, and it's no big deal. But at age 7, 8, I start to see my peers moving a little bit better than me, and so as I start to regress and I go down that pathway, the two pathways you described, really we're creating a bad situation for that kid to ever get out of that vortex of inactivity, as we call it.
Is there an age that you guys have kind of come upon that it becomes significantly harder to train natural movement patterns? Like, like you said, when I'm 5 and 6, I'm climbing trees and riding bikes, and then all of a sudden I have occasionally seen a 4th or 5th or 6th grader who can't ride a bike yet. Yep. At what point, or is there a point where the brain says, no, this is going to be a whole lot harder than you realize now?
Well, the neuroplasticity of the brain goes to about 20, 21 years old, where the neuroplasticity, we start to get that gray matter starts to get hardwired, as I describe it.
Okay.
And the evidence shows that if we're doing our injury prevention trainings, that they don't really work at age 20, 21, but the younger we go with each successive younger group, we get better effects with our training, and that makes sense because they're more malleable. We can start to change their motor patterns. What happens is kids, they start to become successful, they become more hardwired into their movement patterns, and they go down that way. Now, where sports specialization fits in this, as you mentioned, what we tend to do is the specialized athletes tend to become very robust into their specific movements, but then they don't have motor skills that are ready for those other things, so they get a perturbation in their sport.
Right. Yeah.
They don't adapt and tolerate and absorb it, where a multi-sport athlete, they're creating these diverse motor skills and motor profiles.
So what age do you recommend then specializing? Because we had two, kids that are adults now that specialized when they were in high school, but yet when they were younger, they played multi-sports, and the coaches respected that and honored that. So what age would you say you start to kind of stay in your lane?
Well, that's a really hard question to answer. It's really sport-specific, athlete-specific, and I just like to give people the information. I'm not anti-sport specialization because I think that some people are successful with it. What I am anti is completely single-focus skill sport-specific training where they don't create the opportunities for motor skill diversity. And by motor skill diversity, if you want to specialize, you need to take periods of planned off times where you're doing the neuromuscular training, resistance training, and building those skills to create that diversity in your motor skills.
That's why you find a great football player can also be a good wrestler. They're learning those skills and they're training those muscles in different ways that makes it a good complement to what they're doing on the field.
And I think that's the basis of our training, a lot of the training we do for injury. We're not trying to make sport athletes. What we're doing is trying to give the coaches a better athlete, a safer athlete to build their skills upon. And I think if you think about it, the extra training is it's helpful.
Yeah, the risk, that we work with a lot of times is overuse and injury. So I could have a tremendously talented athlete, but if they're injured or they're burnt out, they're no good to themselves or anyone else in that world. So it's creating that balance. I came up, I played lots of sports when I was little, but then when I got into high school, I swam. And, I just remember so many people talking about swimming's like the best sport, it's the best sport. Well, then I went on and I coached swimming. And this is not a slam on swimming because I love swimming. But what I started to see is swimming was one of those sports that specialized way before a lot of them. Everybody back in those days was year-round swimming, and we did 3 hours a day of swimming for little kids and all this. And it started to occur to me, because I would take these guys out sometimes at the high school level when I was coaching them, and we would play a game of Frisbee or something. And some of them were so daggone uncoordinated, and I was like, whoa, what's happened here? And it really did occur to me that these swimmers, they were very good at swimming, but once you learn the basic strokes of swimming, there's not a lot of change in neuromotor function. It's the same pattern. And so it occurred to me, this is not healthy for these guys. These guys should take a season off. That's where that term cross-training really came from about 15 years ago, cross-train. And so it's very
swimmers
important.
are like the perfect model, because you're right. They get so specialized, but they're not even loading their body like most other sports. And so you take the swimmers and do ground-based training, they're like a sponge. They absorb it. It's just like it's like an open window of motor control.
And they love being out of the water.
And similar to the female athletes, they don't often get a lot of this training and resistance training. And some of my favorite athletes to train are females, because they just get it and they just have adaptations along those lines. A group that is often sports specializers that I don't have a big issue with is gymnastics, and we think it's a lot of risk, and people have their concerns on how the coaching goes. But what do gymnasts do? They do a variety of motor skills, strength, power. They're diversified in their movement. So even though it's a single sport, they're doing multiple sports within one sport, and I think that's a better option.
Well, I was a high school and college volleyball athlete, and I was that person you talked about. I had an injury in high school that went into college, and I did not do any cross training. And my vertical jump went down instead of up, and so it definitely was something that I would love to get back to do again, to see how that would look differently now with more information on how to cross train better as an athlete.
Yeah, so, man, this time is flying. We should probably do
all
about 3
day.
more hours of this.
I'm
not sure if you'd want to do 3 hours, but
I always say no one likes to hear myself talk more than me.
Yeah. So, what are some things that we want parents to walk away with a couple nuggets of, okay, I need to really consider. What are some things, whether we are the, overindulged parent of my kids in everything or year-round, or the other side, what are some things that you want parents to hear right now about the state of affairs with our kids?
Well, I think if I could take parents away and give them one thing today, what I'd say is that there's only one mechanism where we can reach every kid out there, and that's physical education. That's our biggest opportunity for change. And so parents need to be standing up to school boards, administrators who keep reducing the opportunity for young kids to be active, changing the requirements in high school that they don't even need PE. That's the big area for opportunity for change, because it's an organization that in the past has had this. We need to bring that back for that perspective. The next one is, again, how do you fight screen time and how do you do it? Number 2 is you guys are role models.
Yes.
Your kids are looking at you. And if you're sitting there watching TV or not moving or not taking them out, you have to be the mover. And then you're going to find more enjoyment in life too. You're
Take a
going to
hike,
be healthier.
go for a walk, ride a bike.
But you're setting the stage for your kids on what it means to be an active adult. So those are the 2 big things in my life. And then again, getting kids involved in sports is the option for some, but not required for everyone.
Right.
And again, there's those other opportunities for being active in many different ways. So I know we work in sports medicine, but I don't want people to think that it's all about sports, because there's lots of things we can do. And again, like the work that you do with training and getting involved, that's a great thing, because you're teaching people lifetime skills of how to train your body, the things that you can do for the rest of your life.
Yeah. You know, we kind of made a mistake when our kids were really young. We had them in the t-ball and the lollipop soccer when they're 4 or 5, and they just wanted to pick dandelions in the field or sit on the base and play in the dirt. You know, it would have been more productive for us just to go outside and play ball with the kids, to toss the ball back and forth, to kick the ball back and forth. It was more painful for us. And they weren't really, they were more about the snack afterwards than they were about the game.
How often do you guys, as children, do you work to educate coaches? Do coaches reach out to you, or do you guys try to reach out to the coaching world?
Well, my world is a publication, so I try to publish everything, every work that we do. We try to publish it and get it out in the medical field. But does that always reach coaches? No, it doesn't. Nothing does as well as whenever we are out with the coaches teaching them. And tonight, I'll be at the Seton High School talking to parents and athletes about a research project, but I'm telling them why we're trying to get them involved. But I've been, over the last few weeks, doing a lot of that as we recruit for this research project. But certainly it's something that's a passion of mine, because if we can sit here and do the science and don't get it out there, then it means nothing. It's important for me. Even the opportunity to come talk with you both today is a way to get the knowledge out there of what we know and what we can do. And again, it's not just us at Children's that are going to make it. Takes everybody to make a shift, and it's got to be a shift in thinking, and not just to be a slave to our screens. We can make a difference.
We are big believers that the reason why Rock Solid Families exist is because most of the problems that we have in our culture did not start from the government down. They started from our home out. And
you're exactly right.
And so, as you talked about before, we would definitely want our schools and stuff to take note of this conversation. But most importantly, it's got to start with mom and dad. It's got to start there. You guys have so much more influence over your kids. I mean, I can't even tell you how many times my mom said, get your butt outside and
turn the
play.
TV off. For us,
And, you know, there was no option. We were outside, and it really didn't matter the weather most of the time.
Don't come. I'll tell you when it's time for dinner.
I'll tell you when it's time to come
Until then,
in.
you're outside without a screen.
And so we have to get back to that. That's just, and it's not like, well, you're being old-fashioned. No, this is a health concern.
Absolutely.
This is not about old-fashioned. This is a health concern. And
our kids need us.
This country and this population is going to drastically and dearly pay for this. So
the jury's still out. I've been saying this a long time now about the technology piece. You know, the studies are being done now, but our kids are the guinea pigs. They've never seen a life without a screen, without a phone in their hand, and so we're going to see what the repercussions are down the road, and I don't think it's going to be good. So we definitely want to make a change now in our homes.
Yeah. So our challenge is, when your kids come home from school today, kick them outside.
That's right.
Our challenge is to have conversation, always. Have conversation. Be mindful about what you're doing within your house and with your kids. We can't just assume that the school is going to take care of it or that the coach is going to take care of it. It needs to be our lifestyle and our mindset. Absolutely. So that is our challenge for you parents out there. Let's make this part of your daily life, that you get your kids out there and busy. As far as contacting you guys over at Children's, if there is an injury or something to that effect, is there a way to contact you
Yeah,
guys?
the easiest way is our hurt line is 803-HURT. They can contact that.
Hurt line.
Yeah. if they have an injury, and then also they can just get online and look for sports medicine at the Cincinnati Children's Hospital, and they'll find us easy. And again, that has access to both our physicians, but also the great program we do.
Yeah.
Well, Dr. Meyer, we want to thank you so much for your
so
time.
much.
I wish we could go
Yes.
another hour easily. But anyway, we need to close up. We want to say thank you to our sponsors, Maxwell Construction, Greendale Cinemas, Mansfield Insurance Agency, and Erie Insurance. Thank you all for listening. Make it a great night and make it a great week.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of Rock Solid Radio. For help or more information about what you've heard this evening, contact us at rocksolidfamilies.org or call us at 812-576-ROCK. That's 812-576-ROCK. Again, a huge thanks to our sponsors, Maxwell Construction, Greendale Cinemas, Mansfield Insurance Agency, and Erie Insurance. If you have questions you'd like answered on air, or you want to chime in on something you've heard this evening, go to our Facebook page, Rock Solid Families. We'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to tune in next Sunday evening at 7:30 for another episode of Rock Solid Radio. I'm Linda Hutchinson, and for my husband Merrill and I, thanks for tuning in to your hometown radio, Eagle Country 99.3.